for this episode of the Buy, Rent, Sell segment, we were looking to arcade games, and we were looking to the specific genres of arcade games that you would kind of find during the heyday, the most popular ones. And we kind of lumped a couple of them together, so you get to kind of pick and choose which are the ones that you like the most and which are the ones that you don't like as much, but they're all classics. So we've got fighting games and beat 'em ups. We've got shmups and running guns, and then racing games. I don't think they got like a pairing genre, but those are our three basic genres that we're going to go with, our buy, rent, and sell. And I'm going to pass it on to Sam for this first one.
Dang it. I was telling the guys I hope I go last.
All right. You could pass it on to Nick then.
All right.
Yeah, I'll pass it on to Nick. I pass.
So I thought about this one, and this is going to be a pretty hard one for me because I enjoy all these genres. I was thinking about it like, based on like the times I've been to an arcade, which games do I always go to? What genres do I always go to? And I think I'm going to maybe surprise some of you guys. Overall, I'm going to start with my rent, and then I'm going to get into the others. I'm going to rent running guns and shmups. And this might be, I don't know if this is being oversimplistic, but specifically, honestly, it's because of Metal Slug games. Like, I love the Metal Slug games. I love the Metal Slug series. I think for me, an arcade game is something you can pick up and play. And, whenever you go to an arcade, they're kind of short bursts of experiences. And obviously the Metal Slug games they're quite long. But shmups in general are like, some of the classic ones like Galaga and all those, they're quick experiences. I kind of would put Centipede in there, I guess, too, if you're thinking about some of the older stuff. But yeah, I would definitely, I'm going to say rent the shoot 'em ups and shmups and run and guns. I'm kind of a fan of the run and gun genre in general. I know this isn't these aren't arcade games, but there's the Cuphead series and Gunstar Heroes. I know those aren't technically arcade games, but they fall into the same genre. You also got Contra. So overall, I'm going to say rent the run and gun and shmup series. Now, this next one, I thought about it for quite a bit, and I might disappoint some people in the comments, but I'm going to sell fighting games and beat 'em ups.
Ooh.
Now, I'll tell you why. Okay, I really enjoy fighting games. I really enjoy fighting games and beat 'em ups. I'll start with fighting games. So I don't consider, like, Smash is a different thing, so I'm not relating to Smash right now. But I think about, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Those are phenomenal games, extremely fun. I've never been somebody that's been very good at them. I think the fighting game I put the most time in as a kid was Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which I think is phenomenal. But other than that one, like I'm just like in general not good at fighting games, but they are very fun. And then beat 'em ups, I always have loved the themes, the themed games that constitute the beat 'em up genre, like the Simpsons game, the X-Men game. You got the Ninja Turtles games. I think they're incredibly fun, but for me, and you guys can feel free to disagree, but I feel like they're very repetitive to me. Like, they're fun. Don't get me wrong. The Simpsons game, the X-Men game, they're great. I think especially for the time. I believe they're all made by Konami, right? Most of them, at least. But for me, they just get a little repetitive. I think they're fun, but yeah. And then with that being said, I'm going to buy racing games. The reason why this is because whenever I go to an arcade, I always find myself having the most fun with racing games. I looked up a list just to refresh my memory. One of my favorite racing games of all time is Hydro Thunder. It was on the Dreamcast, and it's also an arcade game. I also like Crazy Taxi. Crazy Taxi is, it's kind of a racing game. It's kind of not, but it kind of falls into that genre. I also like
Mother Truckers.
Hey, if that's in there, that's actually a pretty fun one too. But it's a fun game. But you also got like Outrun. You got some of the Super Hang On, the little motorcycle Sega one.
Cruising USA.
Cruising USA. There we go. I was thinking about that one too. And yeah, like I just remember myself as a kid going to like the local pizza joint, and like they always have those kind of arcade games, and I feel like those are the most pick up and play for the average person, including myself, somebody who hasn't put a whole lot of time in arcade games.
If I may, also just kind of shed a little light to Nick's background. Nick's mom worked at one of the best pizza places in our hometown growing up too.
Yeah,
that had an awesome arcade collection. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to arcade games.
Yeah, I remember playing.
We also had that trucking arcade game where we worked at
T8. I shouldn't have said it. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, I remember playing
that.
I remember playing Cruising US. I can't remember which one it was, but it was either Cruising USA or Cruising World when I was a kid in the arcade. And then I shouldn't forget this one, but Daytona USA is always a staple, especially if they have the multi-cabinet setup, you know. And then lastly, I got to say this one. The Mario Kart arcade game is really fun. They're kind of harder to find compared to the other ones, but they're extremely fun. So if you ever get a chance to play that one,
watch our old Santa Cruz video where they play Mario Kart arcade. It's funny because I was struggling the entire time to play it, and then Nick wins the race, and he's wondering how Nick was doing it the entire time, and Nick just goes, "I looked it up right before I started racing."
I was pushing the help button. Yeah, I was pushing the help button to find out how to boost. that game I think was made by Namco, so that's why there's Pac-Man in that game. So if you guys ever get a chance, play that one. With that being said, that's going to conclude my buy, rent, sell. I'm going to send it over to Isaac.
All right, cool. I agree. That episode was pretty funny because I remember just for a while I thought I was doing well, and then Nick was just smoking me. But yeah, that happened.
Waluigi.
Waluigi. That game is cool. I know I'm going on a tangent, but it takes a picture of you and puts it on the racer. It's sweet. Going into my rent right away, similar to what Nick just did, I'm going to also rent shoot 'em ups, Shmups too. And I'll just preface it like this. My experience with arcade games more so lies on the home console than it does going to actual physical arcades. Leo and I are big, avid Sega Saturn guys. And I feel like the Sega Saturn and the Sega Dreamcast are just awesome arcade machines. Even the Nintendo Switch with how much it has on the virtual console.
They're just home arcades.
Yes, yep. Yes. And you can get so much of it now at home. And, you buy yourself a fight stick and all of a sudden you have an at-home arcade experience. Shmups are a genre that I did not appreciate until I kind of started recently getting more into them in the last year or so. I started getting games like Sengoku Blade on the Saturn. I got, I think it was called the game Paradise on Saturn. Now I got on the channel too. That one's really fun as well. But even going back to the same pizza place where we're talking about where Nick had familial ties to when we were growing up, they had, and it's probably the most rudimentary, most basic shoot 'em up. But I just remember sinking quarters into Galaga and sinking quarters into telling people this is how you can get two spaceships at the same time. You let this other alien invade you and take your ship, and then if you pop that ship, it'll drop the extra ship, and then all of a sudden you have two. I just remember that being a quarter sinker, seeing how far I could go, or playing just memories with my older cousin on the Namco arcade museum collections and playing Galaga, and him showing me all the tips and tricks growing up. And it was really cool. I got a lot of fond memories with Galaga because of that. The pizza place and with my older cousin. But shmups are just a genre that I have now grown kind of fond to. Similarly, we just kind of came off a conversation about games kind of punishing you when you overcompensate or undercompensate for certain things. Shmups will tell you how to play the level. They'll tell you, do not go into these dead areas, go into these areas and you'll live. And you just have to react, and it's just fun to get into more different ones to see how goofy some of the styles we'll get into. I just mentioned Sengoku Blade. That one has more of a feudal Japan look, where you look like you're controlling these characters who have these yokai demons and ninjas coming after them, and you're not going after spaceships, but you're going after these ninjas. And then going into the game Paradise, you're going into a Sega building and shooting Sega workers or arcade machines. It's pretty fun. But that's going to be my rant. I think that they're good quarter sinkers. They're really fun. You can go into them over and over again. Immediately going into my buy, I'm going into fighting games, but that's just because I'm an avid fighting game player and collector. I play a lot of, obviously, some of the heavy hitters, like the Marvel vs. Capcom series. I have a couple arcade one-ups of the Marvel vs. Capcom games. And I just find it really fun to learn combinations to directions and then execute moves and then keep them in like my muscle memory, because then like I can all of a sudden, like, yeah, you have usually it's 4 to 6 buttons and a control stick, but the control stick really acts as like a pseudo button, because you can then execute a movement and then execute a combo that otherwise in other games that doesn't really happen. And it drew me into fighting games like that. I'm not gonna lie, there is a wall when getting into arcade fighting games that if you're either into that or you're not, and it'll keep you out. I got into it, especially on the Saturn, and started getting things like the King of Fighters. I started getting things like the Marvel vs. Capcom series, the Darkstalker games. And then now I'm buying like niche fighting games like Asuka 120% Burning or Waku Waku 7, things like that. There's like now niche fighting games that I'm looking for that I haven't played yet that I love though. And yeah, I just think they're awesome and have some of the best sprite works ever. Fighting games have awesome sprite works. Everything in Darkstalkers looks like a goofy cartoon, and Capcom, bring back Darkstalkers, please. So that's my buy.
Bring back Morrigan.
Yeah, and more things. My sell, I'm going into racing, and it's not because I have it as the worst of the three. It's just I like the other two that much more. I don't have really much bad to say about racing games. As a matter of fact, I'll say a couple good things. I love specifically jet ski racing games in the arcade, and those are awesome. Or games that are futuristic, kind of like Wipeout. If you play like the Wipeout games, those games look awesome. Anything that looks futuristic or on water, I love those types of racing games. But yeah, I'm going to sell the racing game, not because I don't like it, but because these are three very good choices, and that one just happens to be the third favorite on my list. And I think we got to go. Leo, are we going to you last, or are we going to Sam last?
If Sam's not comfortable going next, I could have him go last. Either way works. Sam?
I could go next.
Let's go to Sam then.
Yeah, we're going to me. All right. So I kind of was indecisive at first, and then after I heard you guys talk, I'm like, okay, I remember a little bit more arcade games. And I'm also going to start with my rant like Nick did. And for my rant category, I am going to put in Shmups and running guns. That's the category, Shmups and running gun. And I think it's hard because like at first, before the podcast, I was thinking about all the games that I liked, and then I remember like, wait, these aren't games that I played at the arcade. So then if I limit it to just games that I played at the arcade, it completely changed the game for me. And then whenever I do go to arcade, I like, what games do I gravitate to the most? What games do I sink the most quarter ins? And running guns is up there. Running guns is Shmups. Like Leo, or like Nick mentioned, Metal Slug, and I know Leo's probably going to talk about it, but that's just if it's there, I'll play it. And it's very fun. I'll put quarters in if we go to like a arcade that's cheap that we have around our location. I can sit there all day and beat it and play it, and it's fun and it's a good time. And like for that game alone, honestly, that I always will play that over any other racing game, even like the BMX ones, even the snowboard games, the Fast and the Furious, the freaking Mario GP. And I guess with that, it's leading me into what I'm going to sell, which is also like Isaac, racing games. I just want to click that. Yeah, so racing games, and it's just like similarly exactly like Isaac in a very boring way. There's nothing. Okay, this is way wrong. There's nothing wrong about racing games. I love them also. It's just that I am less gravitated towards them if I go to arcade, and I think it might be because I'm not good at racing games, and I just got to get good. But there's just something about being able to play. I don't know, like some racing games you could play with other people and like they have two machines set up together. But I feel like a lot of the times I end up playing Shmups with friends, and I think the arcade I prefer playing with friends, and I think that's just, I don't know. Racing games I just sink a lot less quarters into. And then the game that genre of games that I sink the most quarters into then would have to be fighting games. Not necessarily just fighting games, because I'm also horrible at fighting games. We played with Gabo every time we freaking hang out with him, and he just destroys us. But more specifically, beat 'em ups, like all the games that Nick mentioned. As soon as he started naming them off, I was like, bro, that sounds so fun to play right now. Like the Simpsons arcade game, freaking Turtles, freaking the X-Men arcade game, the one that you can play like 6 or 8 players or something.
It's
like
crazy.
you get a whole squad on there, and like hopefully like all of them work, and then just freaking play like 8 players, 6 players, or whatever is on there, and just run through the whole game. And it's just a good time. And I think that's where I enjoy spending my time at the arcade, just playing with as many people as possible. And I think because of that, I'm going to have to put fighting games and beat 'em ups in the buy sell, just for the beat 'em ups alone. The fighting games, I don't even play all that much. But then my rant is going to be my shmups and running guns, and then I'm going to have to sell racers, unfortunately. But I think those are my 3 choices. And with that, I will pass it on to your boy Leo, Midnight Vice, aka Neo Geo Leo.
Okay. So I'm gonna crack open my liquid death water real quick,
Sponsored.
and crack open my opinions too. So, Nick, you specifically should know this. Anytime I head into any arcade, whether it's local, whether it's at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, whether it's in a whole different country, what's the very first thing I say?
Do they have a Metal Slug machine?
Yep. So,
Yep.
with that already, you know my buy. Instantly, I see Metal Slug 1, 2, X, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and I'm like, okay, I'm going there. I'm going to spend some time on it, and I'm just going to go and play that. So, admittedly, I'm not a huge nostalgia sort of guy, but there is a lot of nostalgia tied to this one because at my parents' house in Mexico, right across the street, there's this little bodega, grocery store. I don't know what you would call it. Point is, they always had an arcade machine right there, and you would put 10 pesos in there, and it had all the Metal Slug games, all the King of Fighters. It had Mario. It had all this and that, and it was a hacked arcade machine. But I remember one day, I didn't know what the series was, but I just saw 2 strangers playing it, and I was like, "What is that? That looks beautiful." And I was just watching them play it. When I saw the title screen come on after they stopped, I just started playing it. And then from there, that's where my love of it just really developed and really grew. And eventually, my cousin got Metal Slug X for the PS1 and played that. And over the years, like, it just got to the point where it was a tradition. If I go to an arcade, I'm gonna play Metal Slug. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That alone is gonna put the shmups and running guns in the buy category for me. But it's not just that game alone. There's also a lot of classic shmups that I've really grown to appreciate over the years. I'm not entirely sure if all of them were released in the arcade, but like some of the ones that Isaac's mentioned, what was Sengoku Blade. Things like that are really cool, and it's gone to the point where, as a Saturn guy, I'm always looking for the next shmup to buy. And hey, it makes sense because I put this in my buy category. I don't want to go on talking too long about it, but yeah, it's just the sort of thing where with shmups, they are very difficult and running guns. But oftentimes it's that whole sort of thing where it's like, yes, you could have dodged that bullet. Yes, you could have killed that enemy in advance. And maybe you do got to have a little bit of built-in memory as far as enemy patterns and that sort of stuff goes. But when you do get it there, you realize that even though it's difficult, it's also very fair. You could actually one coin your way through to the end, whereas that's not something I could say about racing games in specific, which... I might as well still say racing games are going to go into my sell category. I do like them a lot, but I've noticed maybe it's just because I suck them. I got to get good. But with racing games, it seems like if you don't have your precise drifting mechanics down, if you don't know which shortcut to take or this or that, you're going to reach that 0 timer And what do you got to do? Insert another coin to keep on going. They're really fun while they last, but if you're not good at them, it's like an uphill battle. And so I'll be playing something like Daytona USA. What's that one super scalar game? Outrun, something like that. And they're fun, but if I can't make it far, my enjoyment only goes so far, if that makes sense. But I will say, if you have one of those 2-player linked arcade machines, you're gonna have a blast, especially if you're at a free play arcade. Like if we have a nickel arcade not too far from us, pretty locally, and when you find those arcade machines that have 2 racing cabinets tied together, you're in for a blast. So I'm gonna put that in my sell category, but it's a soft sell. It's just like, you have to have a buy, a rent, and a sell. Under different circumstances, of course, I would still play these games. Now, as far as renting goes, I'm going to go with fighting games. Fighting games are something I have a lot of fun with, asterisk, when you're with the fellas. When you're with the fellas and you're playing a fighting game, it's going to get competitive. It's like, you either play something like that or NBA Jam, and it's like, no, you are not giving up.
Can we say real quick, if we could put like NFL Blitz and NBA Jam into a
category,
I guess I should say Leo just gave it an honorable mention, right?
Yeah.
I would choose that over all these other ones, honestly.
Oh no, I'd got to go to Metal Slug #1. That's my heart right there. But a very close to would be NBA Jam.
Leo, quit capping. If you could put Guitar Hero as the #1.
No, I would still put Metal Slug above it. That's how much I love Metal Slug.
Respect.
DDR.
Especially because, don't get me wrong, I love playing Guitar Hero Arcade, but let me see, what's that? Sleeping Giant, My Mastodon. That's the Guitar Hero Arcade song I love playing the most. When I'm not playing that one, maybe Cult of Personality, but it's like, I wouldn't say I have a limited interest in the song selection, but I know my bread and butter. You're going to say something, Isaac?
No. I wasn't.
Okay. Leo, what's your favorite Metal Slug game?
3.
Me too.
Yep.
I think
Metal Slug 3.
I think most people say that's like the best one.
Yeah, most people say X, 3, and 6, and I would have to agree with that.
Yep.
I'm more of a Metal Gear. I mean, I'm more of a Metal Slug Tactics guy myself.
I'm actually really excited about that.
Yeah, looks cool.
Oh, something I even forgot to bring up about Metal Slug, or at the very least, I didn't delve into it too much. As far as 2D pixel art goes,
beautiful.
It is probably my all-time favorite, sense of art direction. Like, every little thing moves. When Isaac edits this, he's going to put a GIF of one of the bosses. He could pick just a random one, and I guarantee you're going to see every little frame of detail, like not just in the boss itself, but your character in the background, in the foreground, little things moving here or there. It's just, they put so much detail into those games. It is beautiful.
That thing be looking like Cuphead, bro. Like, straight up, Metal Slug looks like everything is animated. That's one thing I'll say about that series. I don't play it a lot, but everything, like, you can see, if someone farted, you can see their pants move a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, Leo, do an impression of when they open their mouths at the end.
Oh,
like their mouths get huge.
Yeah.
hey, homie, that would always be like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The Prisoner.
Heavy machine gun.
Yeah.
All this is to say,
that game
I love Metal Slug.
Funny.
That's my that alone puts Shmups and Running Guns into my buy. My rent, I didn't go into it too much, and I don't want to run long, but fighting games and beat 'em ups. Beat 'em ups I could enjoy anytime, especially if you have like a 4-player beat 'em up like the ones the guys mentioned. With fighting games, I'm not going to play them by myself, but if you have the guys around and you've been having a good time, you're going to have an even better time if you go into a fighting game and just get that competitive spirit going. When it comes to selling, I like racing games, don't get me wrong, but of the 3, I'd have to go, they're the ones that I'll put in the sell category. And with that, I think we got our buy, rent, sell covered. Does anybody have any extra thoughts?
No, I think we go on to Nick, right?
I think I already covered mine, but just to add something that you mentioned, Leo, after hearing you guys, and I still stick by my list just based on my feelings about the genres, but I will say I do think that the racing genre, when it comes to arcade games, probably has the least replayability out of the others. And although I'm still going to keep my list, that's a huge factor. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of replayability, and I think obviously fighting games have like ultimate replayability. And then beat 'em ups and run and guns. You know, the run and guns definitely have a lot of replayability. So just wanted to add that. So yeah. I think that covers it though, right?
Yes, it does.
Yep.
All right, let's put that end card in.
Woo! And with that, before I get into the end card, if you think we're dumb and do not agree with us, let us know in the comments. Dislike the video, unsubscribe from us. But if you did like us and you did think our opinions are cool, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. Do the Isaac thing. He's about to do fireworks. Leave a comment, subscribe, give us a like, help us out. You already know. Shout outs. Also, yep, that was Leo. And remember that we have this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can listen to podcasts, anywhere you can listen to YouTube. And with that, we'll give Leo his end card.